Greetings, fellow citizens. This is Citizenkong. Well, last week, the edition of the week had a article about President Bush and dissent, and it got me thinking about when I was a little kid. I was a Cub Scout, and I was brought up, to be patriotic. Cub Scouts teaches you that, and while I was a Cub Scout, one of the little events that we went to was Richard Nixon was coming to San Diego, actually Coronado to be precise, and he was going to be there with the President of Mexico. Well, my memory of this was standing alongside the boulevard, waiting for Richard Nixon. Along came this limo, and he was, top-down limo, and he was standing in the back with the President of Mexico. And it just zoomed by, and chasing the president's car was a throng of people. And one thing that stuck out, I remember there was this long-haired man with no shirt, shorts and no shoes. And I could distinctly remember the sound of his feet pounding on the pavement, chasing behind the car. And I don't know why I singled him out. I guess he was like the craziest looking of the whole group. And I was thinking about that today alongside... to do with this article, okay? Because I was thinking this could never happen now, the way things are done. And bear with me, I'm gonna try to read through this article, okay? I usually don't do it this way, but it's all pretty good. Free speech, how Bush avoids dissent. The Bush administration may not know how to plan for a hurricane or a war, said the New York Times in an editorial, but never let it be said it can't plan a political rally. As a result of a lawsuit by two protesters in the American Civil Liberties Union, the White House has been forced to release a manual that details how President Bush's speeches and other public appearances have been micromanaged and laboriously controlled for the past 5 years to weed out the merest whiff of protest. All those attending Bush public events, the manual instructs, are to be carefully chosen, with the attendees searched for concealed anti-Bush banners. Seats closest to the stage are to be reserved for extremely supportive fans of the president. In the terrible event that a heckler somehow gets within earshot of the media covering the speech, a rally squad is to surround him, waving pro-Bush placards and chanting USA, USA. Every modern administration has stage managed public events to some degree, of course, but this White House's obsessive suppression of dissent is out of place in a democracy. It's even creepier than that, said Dahlia Lithwick in Slate.com. Dissent wasn't banned at these rallies just for the sake of creating an image of a president universally adored by his people. It was also banned to protect the tender sensitivities of the president himself. Protesters, the manual commands, were also to be kept out of range of the presidential motorcade, thus sparing Bush the unpleasantness of knowing there are people who disagree with him. Now we know why Laura Bush says she doesn't believe her husband's abysmal poll numbers, said Tim Grieve in Salon.com. The first couple travels everywhere in a bubble of stage-managed love. Bush himself has said that one amazing part of the presidency is the support he gets on the road from ordinary Americans. Amazing. Not so much. There's a bitter irony here, said USA Today in an editorial. The White House's Presidential Advance Manual was released to the public only after a lawsuit was brought by West Virginia couple Nicole and Jeffrey Rank, who were handcuffed, arrested, fingerprinted, and briefly jailed for wearing anti-Bush t-shirts at an Independence Day speech the president gave in 2004. After the Ranks had been hustled away, Bush told the extremely supportive crowd this: "On this 4th of July, we confirm our love of freedom, the freedom for people to speak their minds, free thought, free expression. That's what we believe." Too bad he forgot to tell his advance team. Now, Isn't that infuriating? I mean, Richard Nixon had this crowd of hippies chasing his car. And that could not happen now. At least Richard Nixon was well aware of how his people felt. He had a complete disdain for them, but he was aware. And how can our democracy function when we stifle dissent? And this brings me back to one of my little pet peeves, is that there's no fairness doctrine. If we had a fairness doctrine, the corporate media would not be allowed to control what we see and what we hear. And so much of what has went wrong is because of Bush's bubble that he lives inside of and the corporate media that supports it. It's like a bad relationship. You know, it's like a codependency. And this is my soundbite. Citizenkong says, the truth is not a commodity. All right. I hope I didn't bore you too much, and I usually like to stick to original material, but I felt I had to read that whole article to you. And it's chopped up out of longer articles, but that's what's great about the week for us folks with short attention spans. All right. This is Citizenkong. Cheers.